There's a Twitter thread going viral. I forget the guy's name, so forgive me, but he talks about why the left is freaking out over the parental rights and education bill so much. Now, there's a meme where someone says, it's not rocket science, guys. They're just evil and they want to diddle kids.
Aaron McIntyre, let's give him credit.
He's great, but he's wrong. And there's a great thread about this that James Lindsay had retweeted. I forgive me to the podcast host who posted it because I forget his name. I don't know if you guys want to try and look it up. But what he was saying is what's happening, and I think he's saying it's intentional, is revolutionaries need to sever the relationship between child and parent.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so what they do is they first, in secret, will start explaining to the children why they're evil and bad and why they should feel guilt and shame. Once they've sufficiently made these kids hate their own identity and their parents' identity, they offer up alternative identities. You can now be one of these oppressed minorities. Pick and choose. You can be anything. It's all a social construct. Then when the parents finally find out and are shocked by what's happening, the kids are already so deeply entrenched in the ideology that the teachers can then say, see, we told you they'd come at you. You can only trust us.
Yeah.
And at a certain age, you want to be against your parents because as a teenager, you want to be your own identity. So it's very useful to leverage that kind of natural social age group.
I don't know if I could go so far as to say there's an intentional cabal of people doing this, but I can say that whether it's a conspiracy or just it's happening, it is happening this way. And the way this gentleman describes it is, it's because there's a lot of teachers who are following a curriculum that seems to be empathetic to children who are experiencing some issues. And so they're going along with it. But I think the important point, why is the left so hell-bent on lying about what this bill is, calling it Don't Say Gay? Well, the bill also prevents teachers from talking about heterosexual marriage and traditional relationships. Why do they need to frame it this way? The one thing they're truly threatened by. The bill does not prevent teachers from talking to children about being gay. It prevents them from doing it in secret. They can't tell the kids, don't talk to your parents. Many of these teachers are saying they're going to do it anyway. Yeah. All right. If you're an adult and you want to have sexual conversations with 5 to 9-year-olds and you say, don't tell your parents, I'm going to go ahead and assume you're grooming these kids.
100%.
Or worse.
What else are you supposed to assume? I mean, it's not being uncharitable. That's the most reasonable possible assumption. And you mentioned that they want to sever children from their parents, and it's very true. It's debatable whether there's a concerted effort, but you see this in media all the time. The family unit is consistently attacked. In basically every television program, the father's always a complete moron who can't do anything right. And that's because if you want to go after any structure, you start by attacking the authority. And so it's been seared into an entire generation of people, if not 2 or 3 generations, on some level, that dad is stupid and not to be respected and made fun of. And I think part of it is just a result of the fact that a lot of artistic people who go into Hollywood don't have great relationships with their fathers. Generally speaking, I think that's more typical, not always the case.
I think it's a reaction to feminism because feminists for a long time were proclaiming that you shouldn't show women as being stupid, but that only leaves the guys.
Yeah, I think there's truth in that too. But even if you go back to the honeymooners, which I would say is before feminism had saturated the culture as much, the husband was still sort of weak and stupid and very lucky to have his wife. Yeah,
but he would always threaten to beat his wife.
That's true, right? So they removed, they did soften these types of characters with feminism, but there is this interesting trope of like dad being a hapless fool.
The Flintstones, the Simpsons.
I absolutely have to shout out Futurama.
American Dad. The wife on American Dad is dumb.
Well, no. In Futurama, they go to the moon, and it's 1,000 years in the future.
Yeah.
And they're watching the honeymooners, and he's like, one of these days, bang, zoom, straight to the moon. Right. And then Leela's like, I didn't realize 20th century astronauts were so fat. And then Fry's like, he's not an astronaut. And he was just using beating his wife as a metaphor for, or he was using space travel as a metaphor for beating his wife.
I'm wondering if in all this division of family in the Soviet Union, when they did it, were there kids that basically had their beliefs shattered and then reformed and then at some point realized, maybe even too late, like, what have we done as the government turns on them? Like, are these people that are like useful pawns? Are they turned on eventually?
Oh, yeah. I mean, then Stalin turned on the secret police and then he turned on the top of the military, which was a major problem in World War II because all the military geniuses were killed. Another thing that they taught in the Soviet Union very famously was the story of Pavlik Morozov, who was this little boy whose dad was hoarding grain. And he turned his dad into the authorities and his dad killed him. This is a complete made up story, but there were statues built to him and like songs about him because you're taught in school, if your parents are doing something wrong, you have to inform on them. And if you're killed, you basically become a saint. This is the greatest thing you can do.
Michael, do you watch anime?
God, no.
You need to watch Attack on
you.
Titan.
No, I disagree with that. I've never heard the word need used more incorrectly.
And so there's a meme of like an AI Jordan Peterson saying, "Watch Attack on Titan," and you know why?
Amazing.
Because he wanted iTunes gift cards.
I don't actually expect you to watch it, so I'm just going to spoil the gist of it for
Please,
you.
it's already spoiled. It's anime.
Yeah. So the first season, first you're gonna love this. The first season.
Oh yeah, one more thing I just gotta say. The only cartoons I watch are Freedom Tunes.
Thank you
Hey.
so much.
All right,
Much
check it out, check it out.
appreciated.
The first season is there's the last city. It's surrounded by 3 walls, and there are giant humanoid monsters called Titans that eat people.
Yeah, I've seen the preview. Yeah. And they're invincible.
What it's really about is that there was a great nation that somehow came into the power to become Titans and use it to conquer the world. Eventually, the nation crumbles. I'm not going to spoil too much. And now, in the future, these people are effectively in a prison to pay the sins of their ancestors. In the mainland, where some of these people, they're called Elians, still live, the now dominant country says, you're evil because of what your ancestors did. And so they're forced to live on reservations. And then they're basically treated like second-class citizens. People say, like, whenever they come in a situation with someone, they're like, yeah, well, you have the evil blood within you. So there's a scene where a kid turns his parents in because they're trying to rebel against the government because, they refused. They believe in the greatness of themselves and things like that. There's a whole bunch of themes that talk about a lot of what we're going through with sins of the father, white privilege, gulags, and all of that stuff. And that's what the show is really about. And so at first I was like, I got to be honest, when someone told me it's about people who like use these ropes to fight giants, I'm like, I really don't want to watch that.
Yeah.
And then when the robot, Jordan Peterson, said, you got to watch Attack on Titan, or you can probably do it.
You have to watch it on right now. Watch Attack on Titan. Embody the archetypal hero. Sit on your couch.
So I watched it.
Yeah.
Grab
And
the
then
remote.
it's like, it's crazy how there's like one scene where there's 2 little girls, and one little girl's mother was killed, but she's the evil race. And so then the perceivably, the one girl, she's like, your people are evil and your mother deserved to die. And she's like, why? My mother didn't do anything to anybody. And she's like, because of your blood. And it's just it's brutal, man. The show's so cool. And then there's like people zipping around and fighting giants. So I guess that's a plus.
But there's also like that reminds me of Fantastic Planet, which is a movie about like the giants calling humans as pets, and it's a parable for Czechoslovakia and the Soviet occupation.
Oh wow!
Interesting.
It's a
Was that how they were treating the Czechs? Because
You would love this movie, Ian, because this is the most like psychedelic movie. Like it's made by paper cutouts. You've probably seen the iconography.
what's it called again? Fantastic.
Fantastic Planet.
Thank you.
There's no way you won't love this movie.
Oh wow!
And if what's really crazy is if you watch a certain version, it's dubbed, but the subtitles don't match the dubbing. There's slightly different translations, so you're watching it. It's a complete. It screws with your head completely.
Oh, interesting.
It's interesting how stuff like that works in a cinema. Like the idea that Godzilla is actually a metaphor for nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
was it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's Gojira.
Gojira. Well, I'm sorry, Tim.
Uncultured.
He's half Asian, you know.
I was just doing an April Fool.
In case you haven't heard.
I was just doing an April Fool's joke.
As a-
Of course it's Gojira. Come
As a factoid, it is Gojira, but because when the Japanese people were saying Gojira, Americans thought it was an accent for Godzilla.
Wasn't Jackie Gleason in the first movie?
Was he?
Or Orson Welles? It was some major person was in the first movie.
No.
First Godzilla.
Yeah.
It is kind of crazy that there was a show where like the joke was he was going to beat his wife and the audience would laugh.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
oh, that's
Like,
so funny.
I'm going to beat my wife. and the
Humphrey
audience is like,
Bogart used to
"Yay."
smack women in the movies, and people would be like, "I love him, best performance."
A lot less back talk in those movies.
Yeah, it's very cultural.
Truth. Hey, you brought up April Fools. I wanted to give you a little history
Yes.
on April Fools. It's
This
thought
is-
that
Well, I'm just going to say whatever you're about to say. It's probably contested.
It's
'cause
probably
no
a
one
joke.
knows. Because no one knows.
yeah, don't trust me.
Did you look up Snopes?
No, I looked up
I don't believe it.
from
This-
Washington Post
Snopes.com.
fact check.
That was from Marca.com. I've never heard of it.
Merca.
It's quick. It's thought that April Fool's Day's thought came from about 1582 as France made
Wow.
the change from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar. April 1st was the first day of the year in the Julian calendar. And then when they changed it to January, they started making fun. You said probably making fun of people that still lived under the Julian calendar as they're all now Gregorian.
So I mentioned that before we started the
That's
show.
interesting.
I mentioned that before starting the show. My citation was an episode of The Simpsons.
Perfect.
So that's
Yes.
I also just want to I want to do one thing for everybody who's listening. Put a 1 in the chat if you think that Michael Malice will finish the whole pizza by himself.
I'm not
before
going to
the
finish
end
the
of
whole
the show.
pizza. I'm not a
But
fatty.
is he
Well,
lying?
Is he
That's
lying?
the question.
I'm not.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm finishing this
That is
pizza.
April
Hit the
Fool's
hit the
joke?
like button if you think he's lying.
There you
Okay.
go. Perfect.
No.
Hit the-
Also,
hit
if
the
you
like.
think he's telling the truth.
And send a
Yes.
dollar.
Also hit the like button if you think he's telling
and
the
send a
truth.
dollar to PayPal at michaelmalice.com if you think I'm lying.
Dude, Michael, how is Austin? I got to ask you. I got to know.
I I am so happy every day in Austin. I can't even begin to tell you. And I'll give you a rundown of reasons why. First of all, I didn't realize to what extent living in... I was just in LA last weekend signing hardcovers. I didn't realize to what extent living in New York, I had this background music of anxiety and tension.
Bad, yeah.
And I don't have any of that in Austin. Second, Austin is such a Venn diagram of different scenes making it happen. And everyone is very collegial. Like they all get together and you when you meet people, you're friendly. In New York, when I would go to an event or meet someone, I'd have to bite my tongue and be like, who is this person?
Yep.
Are they going to be annoying? Are they going to smile out to my face and go on Twitter and blast me? There's none of that in Austin. There's things I miss. The restaurant scene is not what it could be. Austin closes down early. There's no like diners. So if it's like 1 a.m. you want to get a bite, you're going to IHOP, which was a situation. But I am turning my house into like this get-together space so that all the people coming through I throw these little events, everyone can meet each other and hang out. And I did only one so far, and it's worked absolutely swimmingly.
I have a question. Do diners in New York City take reservations?
No.
Oh.
What? I don't get it.
So I had a tweet that went viral on Reddit. The left was attacking me because I said I went to a diner and they sat someone before me, so I got mad and left. And they were just like, Tim Pool doesn't know what reservations are.
At a diner?
And this, but the reason I asked is I was like,
so.
maybe the people who are sharing all of this live in New York, and like New York is so crowded that they would take reservations at diners.
Never.
Too charitable, man.
Weird.
They're just dumb.
Yeah, I guess so. That explains it.
I worked at like a nice diner. It wasn't a diner. That's the thing. It was a French-Canadian restaurant that served diner-ish, but really high-end food. And we definitely took reservations, but it wasn't a diner. You know, it wasn't like, you know, you get your diner food, your $7.95.
There is a
eggs
restaurant
and
in New
steak.
York. I don't know if it survived COVID called Diner, but they did take reservations. But obviously, that's what you meant.
Or was
Yeah,
it?
I've been to I've never been to a diner that took reservations. It was the weirdest thing to me when the left was like, Tim Pool's so dumb, he doesn't know what a reservation is. And I was like, bro, we're at a diner. Like, you walk in and there's like one like haggard old lady with a cigarette going, where do you want to sit? And I was like,
No, she goes, sit anywhere you want, honey.
well, no, they were
true.
like,
Usually
there's a
nicer.
wait. There's a 20-minute wait.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay. And then they sat actually 2 groups before us. And I was like, okay, I'm leaving. Like, I'm not. And then I tweeted about it kind of as like a half joke because it, like, you know, I just tweet as to be silly, but also because I was making a point about being a disagreeable person on petty bullshit, and the point being that it helps you in business being disagreeable, especially on petty things. You don't want to be a dick to people, but if you're unwilling to compromise for small things, then you'll tend to get better deals.
You have to establish your own boundaries too, because I'll give you an example. This actually happened. I flew to LA because I was being interviewed for some HBO documentary, which I'll get into. That's a future date. And they were dragging their feet about booking my planes. So I'm like, I'll just do it myself. You guys can pay me back. I booked the flight. I get back. I do a killer interview. They really liked it. Great. And they're like, all right, before you get reimbursed, you need to fill out this like W-2 or W-9. And I go, you have all the information you need. You have my PayPal address and you have the receipt. You can choose to pay me back or not. That's your prerogative. I'm not doing one more thing. And they were like, well, we have to. I'm like, you have. I've said my pieces on Yes Discuss. They paid me. But that's the kind of thing where that was me being very, very petty. Right. But it's amazing how companies will make you jump through hoops, even when you're helping them. And I'm very big on really being obnoxious about it and drawing a line ahead of time, because otherwise they'll just keep asking for more and more and more.
No, I totally agree. Yeah,
And why wouldn't they?
Yeah, the machine craves profit.
Why wouldn't they?
Leverage is everything. Leverage is everything. So you go into a business meeting. If you go in with the mentality of desperation and need, you've lost.
100%.
But if you genuinely need, well, that's your position. So, you know, I've been in positions where I go into a business meeting knowing like, if I don't get this deal, I'm screwed. And I walk in and I'm like, what do you have to offer? And they'll be like, we're going to pay you this much. And I'll be like, make it a little bit more. And they go, okay. And I'm like, all right, thank you very much. I've been in business meetings where I didn't need anything from them. And I walk in, they're like, we want to pay you, you know, 100,000. I'd be like, give me $500,000. And they go, we can't afford that. And I'll go, well, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
You know, you've got nothing for me.
Yeah, when you go into a meeting or interview or whatever, you want to ask them, what can you give me? Can you give me what I need? Even if you're the one desperately in need, don't let them know that. You put them on the defensive and you ask them if they can give you the things that you need.
And let me say one more thing, kids. If the filthy hippie is telling you to walk in the business meeting and say, gimme, 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 you know it's coming from a place of truth.
Of psychedelic.
My favorite, one of my favorite bits of advice I gave to somebody is they got a job offer at a company I worked at. It's Vice. And I told my friend, like, hey, I'm putting in a good word for you. I could use your help. Tell them you want this job. And he said, okay. He emails. He messaged me back saying, hey, I'm not going to take the job. They're only offering me $60K a year. And I said, well, how much do you want? And he was like, I don't know. I don't really want the job. And I said, okay, would you do the job for 80? And he goes, no. I said, would you do the job for 90? And he goes, no. I was like, would you do the job for 120? And he goes, well, 120, yeah. And I was like, so that's your answer. Email back. There's no in business. It's just terms. And he was like, you want me to email back telling him to double their offer? And I was like, you don't want the job anyway. What's your worst case scenario? You don't get a job you didn't want?
Right.
And he was like, oh, okay. He emailed him and they were like, we appreciate your response, but we're unable to pay you that much. And he was like, okay. And then I was like, what was your worst case scenario? And he's like, nothing.
Right.
And they came to me and they were like, your friend asked for a lot of money. And I was like, yeah, he didn't really want the job.
No, it's but in their heads, your friend is worth a lot of money. Right. They're going to reach out to him next time instead of now they're going to know what his price is.
Exactly.
So it'll save everybody a lot of time.
Yeah. So here's what I love asking people. I think I brought this up on the show a year ago or so. Michael, if you got a phone call tomorrow morning from McDonald's, corporate HQ, and said, Michael, we want you to run the cash register at our Des Plaines, Illinois location off of, 355 or wherever, I don't know. What would you say to them?
No.
For you, it might be, I would be reticent or reluctant to say wrong answer, but that is typically the wrong answer in business.
I don't think there's any amount of money I would do that for, because it's not the money that's the issue. I'd have to sacrifice my entire career and all what I'm working towards.
That's why I say for you.
Yeah.
But for the average person, the answer is how much?
Yeah, right. Give me $200,000 a year.
Yeah, well, 200.
But for a lot of people, they would take that. They would gladly do it. For
I was going to say less. I was going to be like,
okay.
tell McDonald's you want $100,000 to work the register. Most people are going to be like, yeah.
Yeah, but then you got to move.
That's true. And
that's very expensive not to have friends.
And it's business is all just about the terms and the leverage you're willing to make. So the more you're willing to sacrifice, the more leverage you have, the more you win. So if you're like, look, buddy, I'm willing to sleep on a park bench and I got nothing to lose. You're paying me what I want or you're not getting me. They're going to be like, oh man, I guess we have to. But some people have families.
Or they go, I guess we really don't want him.
Yeah, fine, whatever, and then go sleep on a bench.
Yeah. I actually
had
this happened to me. I was working. I had a meeting with a celebrity when I was doing my co-authoring stuff, and we really, really hit it off. And I had my standard fee, and they came back with half of it. And in retrospect, I have to appreciate that was their move. It's like, oh yeah, you're asking for X. How about half X? What do they got to lose?
Right.
I was livid, and I don't even remember if I took that project or not, or if I know I didn't fold.
You know what I do? I don't respond to them.
Oh.
Yeah. I actually snapped at one of the biggest biggest production companies and distributors in the world. I had this big business meeting. I'm in a room with 10 people, and I don't want to give away too much information for the sake of their privacy because they work with some people like very, very famous personalities. They sent me a contract with the most insane and ridiculous terms I'd ever seen. And I responded back with, is this a joke? Please, if you'd like to do a deal with me, come back with a real contract. And they said, this is normal in business. You would hire an attorney who would amend the contract. And I said, if you think I'm going to spend $5,000 to correct your bullshit, it's not happening. And so I just said, feel free never to email me again because I'm not going to waste my time one second further.
Yeah, that happened to me not that long ago also, where there's some congressman from Brooklyn, I forget his name, his chief of staff just emailed me. He's like, oh, we'd love to have a congressman on your show. Great. I go, how about 1 hour on Monday, we could talk about his background because he had an interesting background. And they go, oh, he'd only be available for 20 minutes. And how about on Wednesday? It's like, I have an hour-long show. I didn't respond. It's just like, you're pushing him onto my show, and then you want me to restructure the whole show for you? Who the hell are you?
But there's something about not being Joe Rogan, I guess, to use it for lack of a better analogy, where these people think you're willing to take this. Because we get hit up fairly often from people who are
can I ask you, do you think it's that not being Joe Rogan or the fact that they're so oblivious to how podcasting works and how the internet works that they really don't think in terms of CNN hits?
Maybe, but I'm pretty sure if they reached out to Joe and Joe was like, I'd love to have him on the show, they would say, tell us how where to jump and how high. Just let us know what you
Here's
need.
why I think you're wrong. Because when the new right came out in, I believe, 2019, I got booked to do Rogan and I got booked to do Rubin, who's very big at the time, both of them obviously. And I asked my publisher if they had money for travel, which not they don't always do, and that's fair. And they told me in writing, this is the head of publicity, no, they can do Skype. So this was 2019. And the idea that I got on Rogan to promote this book and I'm going to call him up, hey, Joe, we're doing Skype, is so removed from what is you and I would regard as normal or sane that a lot of times I have to wonder what planet these people are on.
It's true, but we've gotten hit up by people who work in a similar space. And they'll be like, hey, this celebrity, this prominent personality can come on your show, but you'll have to pre-record or move your schedule. And I'm like, you guys work in the same industry.
And you know what else they don't realize is a lot of these people that are maybe big names for people who read OK Magazine, if that's still a thing, you're not going to get the big numbers having them on the show because it's going to be vanilla. They're not going to say anything interesting, and it's going to be like people tune in, but you're not going to have the traction.
Exactly. Like they think because they get a bunch of views on their platform, which was provided for them by someone else who built it, that you're lucky to have them on your show or to collaborate with them. It's like, well, but they're not interested.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.